You think you know dinosaurs, T-Rex, Triceratops, Velociraptor, the classics. But here's the thing. For every famous reptile you have seen in a movie, there are dozens of others that nobody talks about. And by the time this video is over, the word dinosaur is never going to feel the same again. Number 6. Meet Longisquama. It lived about 235 million years ago in what is now Kyrgyzstan. Right before dinosaurs really got going on Earth, it was tiny about the size of your hand. It ate insects and it lived in trees. Running down the entire length of its back is a double row of enormous appendages that stick straight up into the air, like a forest of feathers. Each one reached up to 15 centimeters long, on a creature barely 10 centimeters long. But nobody can agree on what they are. When the fossil was first described in 1970, scientists called them scales, which gave the creature its name, meaning long scales. Then a team in the year 2000 looked again and said they looked remarkably like feathers, which caused a massive argument in paleontology because if they were feathers, it meant feathers evolved before birds even arrived. Then another team came back and said they are very unusual hollow scales that resemble feathers but technically are not. So right now in 2026, scientists still cannot fully agree on what these things are. Number 5. Pegomastax. It lived about 200 million years ago in South Africa. It was discovered on an expedition in 1966, but nobody got around to formally naming it until 2012. It was roughly 60 centimeters long and weighed less than a house cat at the front of its jaw. Pegomastax had sharp, enlarged canine-like teeth that pointed outward. They looked exactly like vampire fangs. The internet in 2012 went appropriately wild with headlines about a Dracula dinosaur and a vampire parrot from the Jurassic. The teeth at the back of its jaw were square and built for crushing vegetation. The tall upper and lower teeth worked like self-sharpening scissors. The whole skull shape was adapted for plucking fruit from low branches. Paul Sereno, who described it, compared the fangs to those of living fanged deer, suggesting they were used for self-defense and competing for mates, not for eating meat. Number 4. Suzhousaurus. It was one of the largest of these bizarre plant-eating theropods, living about 115 million years ago in what is now Gansu province in northwestern China. It was around 6 meters long, weighed roughly 3 tons, and had a body that looked like nature could not decide what it was building. Scientists once thought the dinosaurs were giant turtle relatives. Then they thought they were related to sauropods. Then they thought they were something entirely separate. It took until the 1990s for paleontology to agree that these animals were modified theropods who had somewhere along the evolutionary road just decided meat was not for them. The species name Suzhousaurus megatheriioides is literally named after Megatherium, the giant ground sloth, because scientists looked at this dinosaur and thought, this thing occupies the same ecological role as a massive sloth. It pulled branches down to reach vegetation. It waddled through the forests of early Cretaceous Asia. It probably could not run quickly, and if a predator gave it trouble, those 30-centimeter claws were suddenly very relevant. Number 3. Deinocheirus. In 1965, a Polish-Mongolian expedition in the Gobi Desert uncovered one of paleontology's greatest mysteries, a pair of gigantic arms. Nothing else. Each arm was 2.4 meters, ending in 3 massive blunt claws. For the next 49 years, those arms were all scientists had. Artists imagined a terrifying super predator, and the mystery became legendary. Then, in 2014, 2 nearly complete skeletons were finally discovered, and the truth was far stranger. Deinocheirus wasn't a giant predator at all. It was a massive ornithomimosaur related to ostrich dinosaurs, but weighing 6 to 7 tons, and those enormous arms were used to pull food toward itself, not kill prey. Scientists even found fish scales and plant material in its stomach, revealing it was an omnivore that wandered through ancient swamps eating both fish and vegetation. As paleontologist Stephen Brusada put it, it looked like something out of a bad sci-fi movie. Number 2. Microraptor. Lived 125 million years ago in what is now northeastern China. It was tiny, about 77 centimeters long, weighed just 1 kilogram, and belonged to the same family as Velociraptor. But unlike its famous relative Microraptor, had something no other dinosaur was known for: 4 wings. When paleontologist Xu Xing described the first specimen in 2003, it stunned scientists. Researchers later built life-sized models and discovered that its 4-wing arrangement worked remarkably well for gliding. Those long leg feathers would have made walking awkward, suggesting Microraptor spent most of its life in trees, gliding from branch to branch through ancient forests. Its discovery also changed the debate about how birds evolved, rather than flight starting on the ground. Microraptor provides some of the strongest evidence that it began in the trees, with dinosaurs gliding before developing true flight. A 2012 study also revealed that Microraptor was covered in glossy, iridescent black feathers, giving it an appearance similar to a modern raven. And it's one of the best understood non-bird dinosaurs ever found, and one of evolution's strangest experiments. Number 1. Yi Qi. In 2007, a farmer in China's Hebei province discovered a fossil and sold it to a museum. When paleontologist Xu Xing examined it, he realized it was unlike anything ever seen before. The animal lived about 160 million years ago and was only the size of a pigeon, weighing around 380 grams with a wingspan of about 60 centimeters. Its body was covered in feathers, but the most extraordinary feature was a long, rod-like bone extending from each wrist. Scientists eventually realized it supported a bat-like skin membrane, similar to the gliding membranes of flying squirrels. That meant Yi Qi had both feathered wings and membrane wings at the same time. The only known dinosaur to do so, this discovery challenged the idea that feathers and skin membranes evolved separately, making Yi Qi one of evolution's strangest experiments.